Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our channel Paws On Animation and our Paws On Manga segment.
And today we are covering the Tokyo Ghoul RE manga, just in time for Spooktober.
Yes, now this is the sequel manga to the original Tokyo Ghoul. And it sold over 3.7 million copies during the first year it came out, believe it or not, in 2015. Why are we covering this? Because I absolutely love it. I love Tokyo Ghoul, but RE has become my favorite manga and my favorite series. And thankfully, Rascal read it with me.
Yes.
So, in case you haven't read it or watched it, we want to tell you more and share with you so you can check it out this month. But
before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, and click on notifications to get updates on future podcasts and all the Paws videos.
Yes, and thank you so much for joining us today, subscribing, sharing videos, commenting everything you do. We appreciate you guys so much. We hope you know. Thank you. And I really loved reading this manga. If you haven't seen our podcast on the series itself, it should be coming up now. You can check that out. We've both watched the anime and read the manga. So for those of you not familiar with the Tokyo Ghoul franchise, it's a dark fantasy manga series written and illustrated by Sui Ishida. The first manga came out between September 8th of 2011 through September 18th of 2014 with 14 volumes. This manga, the Tokyo Ghoul RE, and you find out what it means in the manga itself, has 16 volumes. And both mangas got their own TV series.
Right.
The first Ghoul had 2 seasons and RE has 1.
Right.
In my opinion, for the series, RE is much better watched than the original Ghoul. Ghoul deviated so much from the manga that it was unenjoyable.
Right.
Plus the graphic violence and blood scenes. But RE has a really good storyline. It's got really good character development. You're introduced to a bunch of whole new characters.
Right.
And we find out more about Kaneki, who's now known as Heisei Sasuke, after the events ending in the first series Ghoul, where he was almost beaten to death and left for dead.
Right. And with this one, it's almost like Jimmy Rex in a way where you don't know where it goes from there. You're just kind of put into the middle of the 2-year time skip, and you see these new characters, new surroundings. Like you said, Kaneki going by a different name now, and slowly but surely he does get his memory back in different ways, which you'll get to. But
more surely than slowly.
Right. But it is interesting to see how they almost re-enter this world again, but really through a different perspective. Still the same character, but now we're focusing on the humans who are fighting the ghouls, and the ghouls hiding from humans or trying to keep each other safe from persecution. So it's almost like a series in its own right, not just necessarily a sequel to the first Tokyo Ghoul manga, but it can really stand on its own, like with the Puss in Boots movies.
Yes. Now in this one we have, I'm going to call him High for now because the majority of this manga he's High, H-A-I, that's what I mean.
Right.
He's the leader of the Quink Squad, which is a group of half ghoul, half human hybrids who are like him, who use their abilities to attack and defeat ghouls. And so yes, now the CCG and the doctors are deliberately transplanting weapons and organs into humans so that they can frame up, as it's called,
Right.
when they go full ghoul, while they're trying to eradicate full ghouls.
I guess fire with fire then.
Yeah, it's really weird. So, again, this manga series is 16 volumes. The stories are interesting. You're introduced to new characters because he's leader of the squad. You got Tonabayashi. You've got Yuri. You've got Shirazu. You've got Suzuya, Muski, and then you've got some old favorites that we know from the first series like Kisho Aruma. And then you've got some new characters that are members of the Washu family who are supposed to be the ones who are head of Tokyo Ghoul CCG,
Right.
and eradicating ghouls, and you get a big secret about them. And special investigator Morude, who leads countermeasures. So you're introduced to a whole lot of other new characters. And what I said for here is you get to see a different version of Kaneki.
Right.
With him as High.
Right.
Because he's got a different personality. He's fatherly to the recruits that he's training.
Right.
And he makes them Christmas dinner, invites them over, gives them gifts. He's very attentive to him. They can go to him and talk to him about everything. Even Tonobayashi calls him Maman.
Right.
Because he's so much like a mom.
Mm-hmm.
And in this series, most of them start off younger, ranging from 17 to 20. And then by the end of the book, there's a 6-year time skip. So they end up ranging from 29 to 32 by the end of the series.
Right.
And of course, Kaneki is in his 30s by the end of the series as well. But I like the character development for each of these investigators. And I like seeing this side of High. Unfortunately, it's not going to last because during his normal days, he's actually having dreams and seeing images of his previous life.
Right. And that starts coming up more and more throughout the series. And there's even a point where he has the realization of remembering who he is. And it ends up being a lasting impression because when he starts to think out processes and plans and every step and everything, there's a scene they keep both in the manga and the anime where he's talking to the different versions of himself from like the time I'll say the franchise has started all the way up to his current one.
Mm-hmm.
So you see him with the different hair, or with the eye patch, or with the ghoul mask, or he's different heights and everything. So he's literally like talking to every version of himself that's had the different experiences, and sort of like he's his own what do they call it? Screening, a test screen. He's his own test screening of the plans and things. Even to a point where he wrote his own little comic about how scenarios should go, and then they said no.
I also want to mention, as you're saying that, you also see the reappearance of Tsukiyama,
mm-hmm.
who in the first series wanted to eat him, the gourmet. And now he's actually one of his allies
mm-hmm.
after he is involved in helping him regain his memory. All he cared was, oh, Kaneki, I'm going to help you get your memory back. And then once it happens and things take a dark turn, he's really sorry that he fiddled with him
mm-hmm.
mentally. And he actually becomes one of his best aides and friends and allies,
mm-hmm.
which was like, there's no way you saw this coming.
Right.
And he ends up learning to appreciate his dad and all he's done for the ghouls who live as humans and what he's done for him in his lifetime. And that's actually a lot of character development and seeing he and the dad get together.
Right.
And now that he knows the truth and he's going to help the family, he can be the best person he can be. And he ends up being that which you never saw coming.
Right.
And yes, we know the way that High looks. Women want him, including one of the investigators he's training who loses her mind later when he ends up back with Tuka.
Oh my gosh.
And you've also got the reappearance of some investigators we thought were gone.
Right.
Surprisingly. Because, yeah, they've been experimenting on everyone. And I mean everyone. And it's like almost now the CCG is all half ghouls.
Right. And
then by the end of the series, when they're trying to eradicate them, you've got some really deep, serious storylines going on.
Right.
So I'm going to quickly read the back of the final volume,
mm-hmm.
and then we'll get into a couple of the comics they run in each one.
Yes.
And the outcome from this manga.
Right.
Which, if you haven't read it, you're going to enjoy.
Right.
So, final volume involves the Commission of Counter Ghoul, is the only organization in the world fighting the ghoul menace, and will use every tool at its disposal to protect humanity from the ultimate predator. Its newest weapon in the hidden lore is an experimental procedure that implants human agents with a kogane, the ghoul organ of predation, giving them ghoul powers and abilities. But both the procedure and the newly formed Q Squad are untested. Will they become heroes or monsters? The Ghoul CCG Alliance secures its first victory when it rescues Kaneki from the monster he was entombed within. But the creature still poses a dire threat to the city as it continues to birth mutant ghouls. Some
Yeah,
of
I'm not
which
kidding.
are infecting humans with a horrific form of ghoulism.
Now, zombies on top of it.
The only cure lies deep in the belly of the beast itself, and Kaneki, or Hai, is determined to find it. But will this act of bravery be the final strike to the end of the war, or Kaneki's last stand? And yes, it is as epic as it sounds here. The last volume is really, really thick.
Yes, it's like 2 to 3 books long. It's almost like an omnibus in itself.
It runs, let's see, can I see the page number here so you have an idea?
Oh, no, can you? Because there's a lot.
It's over 300 pages.
Oh, my gosh.
So it's really, really good. And there is a happy conclusion, which may make some people upset who like to have dire endings. But I personally like that characters that I've grown attached to and characters that are my favorites and I love actually make it out of this.
Right.
So for me, it's a happy ending. So we want to quickly talk about the comics that run at the end of each volume.
Yes.
That are absolutely hilarious, pointing out inconsistencies and problems with characters and their idiosyncrasies and
yes, and just goofing off in a way. And that's probably one of the best things of the series because it is a serious story, but there are times where they let a little comedy in. Every now and then the story and some of the responses or reaction things. And then, like you said, the biggest things are in the end comics themselves at the end of the manga. And one of my favorite things that comes right before the end of a certain volume and for the comics is that the chapters have like the numbers and then usually the title. And then the final chapter was called A, but they didn't release the name of the chapter until you got to the final page. And you're wondering, well, why is it called A? Well, then you see the cities being destroyed, and on the side of it, you see one going, ah! And it's just constant screaming, like, who did this? Who did this? Like, that's the last chapter screams, and then the book's over.
But they're funny, and they're good because after you've been reading this intense work of art, you need some levity, and they give it.
Right.
Within it, you've got some, but the closer you get to the end of the book, the less funny it is, and the more serious it is. And unfortunately, you do lose some characters that you grow to love, including Shirazu. He actually became, I call him Tokyo Ghoul Kirishima, but he actually became a favorite, calling him Mr. Sass, and him actually giving him the responsibility of leading, being a lead investigator. And he just turned out to be a really good guy. So I also like at the end of the 16th volume, they tell you the outcomes to everyone. They tell you about how they're eating synthetic foods, which I think this is pretty funny when you think about how things are now. It says the TSD laboratory developed synthetic foods ghouls could safely ingest. Initially called synthetic meat, the name was later changed to the more euphemistic synthetic foods after several years of experimental rationing. And if you think about it, they talk about Bill Gates wanting to make synthetic meat. And that's all I could think about when I saw that. I'm like, they were years ahead of their time. Personally, I won't be eating it. And you find out what happens to each character. Again, some of them actually are healed from the things that have happened in Volume 16. The advancement of regenerative medicine was the greatest consequence of the dragon assault that happened, and it saved the lives of many patients otherwise deemed hopeless, including Yukinori Shinohara, who Suzuya, if you remember Juzo, he helped to save him and rear him, and he would visit him almost every day, waiting for him to come out of coma, and he does come out, so that's a happy ending. And then, of course, you know that Tuka and Kaneki, who that's the name he uses by the end up together, and they have one living child by the end of the book. And you've got Tonabayashi, she makes it, so does Yuri, and Mutsuki, who has a lot of serious mental issues, unfortunately, by the end. And you got Sakumichi and Arima, and we find the ones that we thought were gone, and I won't spoil it in case you haven't read it, are alive, and they make it to the end of the book. And you also have the return of Hide, who I'm just going to tell you, yeah, we thought he was gone, but no, he's back here. And the message that's left is the world keeps changing. And so for Kaneki, the ending says He really drowned in the dragon's fluids after eradicating it, but was rescued by Yato Kirishima. Returned to the surface in bad shape and slept for 2 whole weeks. Provided assistance to both the TSC and the United Front. Mm-hmm. And again, he and Tuka have a daughter. And at the end, you've got this picture of them standing in a field. And he says it's a beautiful day. So there's so much more that happens in here that you've just got to read. Reading the manga concurrently while watching the anime is how I did it. And what I would do is read the manga and then I watch the anime up to where I read, then I stop and then I get more volumes and read it.
Right.
And I really enjoyed it that way because I could see what was left out quite a bit after the midpoint of the anime.
Right.
And what was left in.
Right. And like I said, it's been a pretty good experience to read this, and there's a lot to it more than meets the eye. And really, the best versions have to be the manga of these 2 stories. Now, for the anime, as you said, it stays pretty close to the source material up to a certain point, and even then, it tries its best to stay true to the story. Mm-hmm. It looks like the worst things they've done are the live-action movies, which you should not touch unless you want to laugh.
And they've got quite a few OVAs, and then a prequel, and also a sequel called
Route A.
Right, which has a deviation from the story itself. So if you want more Tokyo content, there's plenty of it. And also there's other books that I covered on this channel as well, past, present, future. They're excellent reads, but they're novels, not mangas. If you haven't read any of the Tokyo Ghoul franchise, you should. So if you've read Tokyo Ghoul RE manga, let us know in the comments. Even if you've watched the anime on Hulu or Crunchyroll, let us know in the comments. Mm-hmm. Did you love it? Did you like it like I did more than the original? Tell us what you think. If you haven't read it, it's available to read at probably your local library. You can buy it online, and you can probably read it on the Shonen Jump manga app.
Right.
Check it out. Come back and tell us what you think.
And if you haven't already, subscribe for updates and weekly reviews for anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
Yes, and thank you for joining us during this Spooktober. As always, you are special.
Thank you so much for watching Mask Entertainment.
And I'm Mom Entertainment.
Have a fantastic day.
Peace.
Lights, trying to walk around, man. Who the hell are you? What you wanna do? Well, man, it's on you. Man, it's on you. Hit her in my dreams. She was my queen. A castle in the mountaintops, rivers and streams. Plucking sunlight from the sky.